Where do I begin? Well, this game is very special to me. I'm sure it was for a lot of us playing it back then. Definitely left a huge impression at the time since it was that coming of age kind of game for me. Been one of my favorites since, but sadly I've never returned to it. But while I was gone, I've heard some things about it. Now, not the vanilla version I played growing up, but the definitive final mix version that was overhauled with a few tweaks and included a lot of extra content. The newly added critical mode being one of those main features. Now, growing up, I never took it further than just playing it on a casual level, kept replaying on standard, and that's about it. But the idea of having this never before seen version with a mode to push the game's combat system quite a bit further than before sounds pretty hype. So with all that, I'm pretty excited to return to a personal classic, so let's get started then. This is Combat Overview. Here we go over the general controls, the main mechanics, who or what we use them on, and then seeing how it all comes together. Okay, I've heard critical mode is the way to go, so that's what we're going to do. There's some details we should know about it though that makes it so enticing. For one, you'll start with half health, you take double damage, earn less XP, and your potential max health and magic is capped sooner than any other mode. Sounds pretty harsh, but here's how they even it out a bit. You instantly start off with more ability points and very helpful abilities to equip so you can jump into things with a solid set of tools. Not only that, but you deal 25% more damage. So yeah, the mode is punishing, but at the same time you're heavily rewarded for your skill, knowledge, and timing. And if you're consistent, not getting yourself hit and stay on top of things, then yeah, you'll tear through enemies quicker than before with these extra benefits for playing on critical. That out of the way, let's see what Sora has for us. At first, you just have this 2-hit combo for both grounded and aerial combat. Next, we have 2 enders. There's Guard Break. It's a piercing attack that deals solid damage to a single enemy. The other ender is Explosion. It's a crowd control finisher sending out orbs to clear out any nearby enemies. Also, air combat is a huge part of the game as well. And similar to the ground, there's 2 aerial enders. First being Aerial Finish, it's this multi-slash that deals solid damage to a single target. And Magnet Splash. When surrounded, you'll do this attack instead, pulling enemies in before exploding. So it doesn't matter if you're grounded or in the air, you have access to enders to target just one or multiple enemies. Now as the game goes on, you'll unlock modifiers giving us more options based on certain conditions. Slapshot, very fast attack that'll begin your up close combos. Didn't use this much at all, so I say it's passable from my experience. Flash Step, this one comes out about mid-range, having you leap forward. Now, a cool little property with this attack is it has an active shield or guard as you move in, so it can clash parry attacks if timed correctly. Would I recommend it to clash? Clash parries aren't as consistent here like in 1. Still, it's a solid tool since it'll help bypass some attacks while you get in, that's for sure. Sliding Dash, can't clash parry with this one, but can reach further away targets. Vicinity Break, this crowd control attack comes out when you're surrounded. And yeah, I'm sure you know what's next because there's aerial based ones too. There's Aerial Dive, which is a better version of Aerial Sweep. It gets you from the ground to aerial combat super quick when attacking anywhere near some airborne enemies. Of course you won't have these, so you'll feel kinda stuck in the beginning. So early game, I like to jump forward towards an enemy and then attack. Get quite a bit of forward momentum with multi-hitting attacks to quickly get things started. Neat thing is, with all those multi-hits, you're able to clash parry too at times because of how active it is. So we got some cool options, right? But something you ought to know is that they're automatic. It's not like DMC where you hold a direction as you attack to get this or that specific option when you want it. Here it's based on positioning, so you need to be in that sweet spot or have enemies in certain areas. It's something you definitely need to get the feel for over time since they're all context sensitive. It can come off as overly automated, sure, but it also keeps a pace in constant motion and very dynamic. Yeah, it kinda sucks it's not more clear about these things because in Kingdom Hearts 1, for example, they'll lock an icon to give it a more clear idea what range you're in, showing by how many segments it has. That detail isn't here, sadly, but trust me, it's not as bad as it sounds, since everything is just that snappy and flows with no hiccups. And again, with it being on critical mode after all, you'll learn pretty fast when it's a good time to use these and when it's best to slow down and keep an eye out. But hey, that's not all because we have some modifiers with a bit more control. So by pressing square during your combo, you'll do upper slash. It's our launcher. Good way to start aerial combat, obviously, but can use this to avoid surrounding enemies to single out a certain problem target. Next is finishing leap. Another launcher that can only be done at the end of your combo or after a finisher. and this version can launch multiple enemies because of its wider range. There's one or two more attacks using square, but these are pretty light in options. Onto defenses. We got ourselves a guard. Well, get ready to learn how to use this and fast on critical because it works against a lot of enemies, even bosses. It's extremely strong, but it does have restrictions to balance it out. It only covers your front, leaving your back exposed, and it's not reactive. So it won't take priority to cancel other actions. It's a more deliberate option since it has some startup and a bit of end lag afterwards. But again, this gets you to stop mashing, be more intentional with your plays, and keep an eye out for what everyone's doing, which is a good thing. Now, when you guard successfully, there's some iframes giving you enough time to act with whatever you want. An attack, use magic, drive form items, and so on. So the reward matches the little limitations it has. Speaking of that, guarding also leads into a counterattack. Sending out this burst to create some space, deals a bit of damage, and just lets you start your next combo with these. We also have a roll with full iframes, and yep, just like our guard, it doesn't cancel. You won't have access to this for a while. Might sound pretty weird since it seems like such a standard tool, especially since one had it. But no worries, this roll isn't needed at all to beat the game. It was added afterwards with FM, so the game wasn't built with it in mind. The guard is, you know. But the post-game content is a different story, but we'll get there later. I mentioned it earlier, but clash parries aren't as strong compared to 1. Sometimes it'll knock enemies back, but that stagger isn't as consistent. I wouldn't go and try to clash parry everything because of that. Instead, KH2 focuses on guards, instead which has its own hype moments. There's actually more ways to avoid damage if you can believe it. Recovering the air after being hit lets you avoid a follow-up. Your double jump acts as an aerial guard to block attacks, and we'll look into it soon, but even casting Cure lets you avoid damage when Leaf Bracer is equipped. But yeah, guard, roll, air recovery, double jump, and Cure are a few ways to avoid damage. It can be tricky to time these, but they come in handy. Looking at the HUD, and yeah, this is going to be a long breakdown, so get settled in. Green bar that surrounds our portrait is our health, of course. Also, remember how I mentioned it's capped in critical? Well, this is how it looks late game on any other mode, so be ready to manage it. Blue bar is our MP gauge. It's mainly used for magic. Each cast will use a certain amount of it, so no cooldowns for these options. It's all based on a resource that you can use whenever you want as long as you have MP. Now, while our physical attacks will get us in at a press of a button, magic is a bit different. You're stationary when casting spells, but it can be done both grounded and airborne. Just know if you use any of your meter without refilling it, it'll go into this cooldown state shown by it being magenta. Give it time to come back or use ether to speed this process up. Well, alright, we have quite an arsenal of spells here. Blizzard is our straightforward projectile. Doesn't track or angle, so whoever you want to hit should be on the similar height level. But by the looks of it, it will pierce through enemies. While that can shoot far off enemies, Fire on the other hand is very stubby in range, but has this continuous multi-hit for some solid crowd control. Thunder has some splash damage on contact too, but it only hits once. But it can reach any enemy, doesn't matter where they are. And its main use is to launch, allowing for aerial combos. Now those are our damage spells. We also have some support ones too. Reflect being your new best friend. It's our defensive shell putting up this bubble that'll completely surround you. If anything makes contact with it, either physical, magic, or projectile, it'll reflect it, sending out damaging explosions around you. Also, this can't be used reactionary either, so it's something you need to use correctly, but it can be used in the air unlike the guard. Next up, Magnet. This will clump a crowd of enemies. It might as well do no damage because of how little it does, but it's more of a setup spell. A standard combo is to follow up with Thunder because of its far reach and spread on hit rate. It's also not bad to use this after a reflex since those explosions send enemies away from you. So you can keep them close soon after and continue the smackdown with Magnet. Or if you have Finishing Plus equipped to stack back-to-back enders, you can Magnet and go into a finisher like Finishing Leap or Explosion. So yeah, Magnet is great to keep them nearby and follow up however you want. And lastly, Cure. It heals of course, but there's some interesting stuff to it. Because when used, it'll instantly use up all of your MP no matter what. You can have a full bar or a sliver of MP and it'll cost you everything. Kinda sets up this risk-reward situation. So if you're low on health, do you try to get the most out of your MP by casting other spells before Cure? Or do you want the benefits now and be out of magic for a while, which means you'll be missing out on possible setups while it recharges? Just something to think about. And yeah, that's it for magic. You can see these are pretty useful. They cover different ranges from up close crowd control to far off shots. Vary damage values depending on enemy types. and even how it'll affect them as well, either by launching or locking them in place. Stuff like this makes magic very useful based on a lot of factors, so they feel very distinct from one another, something I really wanted from FF16 for example. But here the magic system is very layered and can be used in a few ways to fit your playstyle. Speaking of that, just because it's magic, you still have the same functionality as physical attacks, for the most part. They both have their crowd control option, their form of magnet, you have your physical launcher and magic launcher too, right? So again, no matter which side you lean on, you won't be missing out too much, and the fun really starts when combining the two. That's when it gets interesting. Before moving on, holding L1 to access your hotkey menu. This is fully customizable and very useful to use your favorite spells on the fly. It's just a one page, which is doable, but since we have a lot of great tools, I wish we can use them all just as easy. Something like Scarlet Nexus would let you double tap the hotkey button to show the second page full of other options. Next time. Yeah. Now onto drive forms. For a quick rundown, these are temporary transformations, some being linked to specific party members to use. One lets you dual wield for this non-stop approach, or shoot tracking projectiles with extra leniency on magic casting, and later ones can do a bit of both at an extra cost. There's 5 forms total plus 1 anti-form, all of them having unique animations, abilities tied to that form, and an extra bit of movement like higher jumps or glide. Okay, to use these it costs a few bars of drive, each one requiring a different amount and then drains while active. You can revert early to save a bit of meter if needed too. To refill it, either pick up yellow drive orbs or just by playing. It'll fill eventually through combat. Also, whenever your MP is on recharge, any refills to drive gauge will be boosted during this time. It makes quite a noticeable difference. So we're not done yet. On activation, you'll get iframes and launch nearby enemies. Also, drive forms instantly refill both health and MP bar. Great option to use in a pinch because of that, so you can get those enemies off you, or to get your resources back at the cost of spending drive. And then it creates this circle of resource management, right? Each one helping each other refill. I mentioned it earlier, but each form specializes in specific areas. Wisdom is focused on magic. You lose your basic attacks, but can easily hang back and fire off tracking shots while moving. You can also cast spells a lot faster in this form while you move, so we're not locked in place like before. Thing is, since it's such a passive form, damage is a bit low, but that's a trade-off for its standoffish approach. You need Donald in your party to use this one. Valor takes away your magic options, but lets you dual wield, allowing you to dish out a lot more attacks in rapid succession, and with it having high jump, it makes it really strong in aerial combat. But with this all-out approach, we also lose the ability to guard, making this the true glass cannon. You need Goofy to use this form. So already, with just these two forms, the game allows you to focus on either aspect of your toolkit. Next up, Limit form. This one doesn't need a certain member to use, and it makes sense because it's a callback to KH1, shown by the classic recolor. This is more well-rounded form, having your basic attacks, new enders of its own, and you keep your guard. But since it mimics KH1, you now have a role. Not only that, but your hotkey is fully replaced with these KH1 skills. You can toss these out at the cost of MP, and they have iframes on startup. They even heal you on hit, so yeah, this is pretty damn good. Master form. Requires both members because it's a mix of valor and wisdom. It lets you dual wield, and with each attack you automatically leap into the air. This form gets 2 air combo plus, so yeah, it can definitely deal airborne damage. Not only that, but you can also spam spells with ease, but without enhanced enders wisdom form gives you, but can cast on the move still. So this one is a mix using physical and magical attacks. Even has double jump acting as an air guard. Now anti-form. This one can't be selected. It's more of a chance form that you might not want to see. Can't use spells, lose your keyblade, can't pick up green orbs, lose defensive options, and can't use reaction commands. All you can do is mash attack and wait for it to end. This happens when you rely on forms too much, so it's a countermeasure against it pretty much. I've only seen it twice my whole playthrough, so it's not a constant nuisance, but something to keep in mind. And lastly, final form. Just like anti-form, you can't select it at first. You need to get it by random chance while selecting other forms. Luckily, FM gives you a keyblade that raises the chances to unlock this form. And yeah, and once you get into it, you'll notice it kinda takes a bit from every form. Can move out casting, has powered up spells, short and lag on everything, can dual wield, has great multi-hitting ground and aerial combos, your keyblades will even damage when jumping or using items, attacks extremely fast, some moves looking very similar to anti-form, has great movement overall and gives you glide. But thing is, it costs the most gauge, requiring 5 bars to start it when everything else just needs 3 or 4. And it drains extremely fast as well when compared to the others. So it's powerful, but the cost matches its strength. And those are drive forms. Yeah, these are another key pillar to the combat system with interesting pros and cons. You'll lose some abilities, but gain some fun options in return, while being this comeback mechanic too, so yeah, very useful. Plus, with how this and MP play off each other, making for some give and take risk reward situations for each option is pretty cool. When one's gone or limited, then something else is given a boost. And another thing, you can even level up forms by meeting specific requirements. With each level, they will drain gauge slower, increase its uptime, and permanently unlock those movement or growth abilities for outside use. But the thing is, you most likely won't know about these for the most of your playthrough, and if you do, the times you can try to level them up through the story is slim. So you most likely get these by grinding, which yeah, it's a pace killer. Now there's quick and easy ways to level them up, but still time consuming. Good thing is, these aren't needed to beat the game. I started grinding for these after I beat it because, well, you need them to actually get through the Cave of Remembrance or fight these post-game bosses. So they lock you out of the new endgame content, which kind of sucks, but at the least game puts them to good use when you do get them. Okay, there's still more, but to tell you the truth, I'm gonna skim over these next 2 things so this video won't be an hour long. Let's find out if that aged well or not while I edit this. So, we have party member limits. Good guess, but yeah, these are tied to specific members. These will use up your entire MP bar and gives you full iframes while active. So a good reversal option or to push advantage. And similar to Cure, can wait to use the limit when you have little MP, so might as well cash out with a powerful attack. Yeah, I didn't use limits much because if I was in a pinch, I would just use Cure. But these are something to use at least once just to see what your new party member can do while visiting that new world. And lastly, summons. These use up drive gauge to call out and will gradually drain their meter before leaving. Chicken Little, he'll whistle, which stuns enemies and brings them in. Great for crowd control. If there's just a single enemy, he'll just toss a baseball at him. Instead, Stitch refills your MP. He also blocks most, if not all, enemy attacks. And since it can't be damaged, he'll stick around a lot longer than most other summons. Even plays his ukulele to save you when you're low on health, stunning all enemies, making them drop HP orbs. So he's really a good all-rounder. Genie has a cool gimmick because he'll change his attacks based on the drive form you pick for him. Valor for a single target, Master for this barrage of magic attacks, and so on. Peter Pan. He'll follow wherever you go and attacks when you do, stacking extra hits on top of yours. Occasionally he refills a bit of health, and if you die, Tinkerbell will revive you on the spot. Only started to mess with these for the video, but other than that, yeah, I never touched these much. But they have some neat uses, so I'd recommend trying them out at least once or twice. Now onto the RPG side of things real quick. We're going to look at those AP points. We had a limited amount and each ability we equip cost AP. You can put on a good amount, but there'll be times where you have to decide what's worth having. And again, there's a lot of options here to really customize your kit. Pick more physical attacks like adding more hits into your base combo, or increase damage on finishers. You can have 2 enders in a combo, or add a launcher, or even shorten your combo to reach powerful enders sooner. You can even pick elemental buffs and so on. Now they can be improved a bit. There's no videos to show what these actually do, and sometimes these descriptions aren't the best. Around this time, Mana Breaker was already doing this sort of thing that same year, so it could have been done, but it has you experiment a bit more to figure out what they can do, so that's not half bad. Also, depending on what you pick at the beginning between sword, shield, or wand, you'll get specific abilities at a certain level. I say go with shield. You'll get second chance and once more pretty early on. These let you survive a fatal blow and entire combos that are meant to take you out. And with us playing on critical, yeah, this comes in handy. You'll get to pick a struggle weapon too at the very beginning. Just gives a single stat boost. Bat gives strength, handguard gives defense, and wand gives magic. Very simple. And yeah, just pick whichever one. Okay, Keyblades are kinda genius here. The variety is top notch for one, but what's great about them is the fact they don't get outright replaced once you get a new one. There's some stat differences, but nothing major at times. Some do lean towards more physical damage and others magic. Different reach too, I think. But most importantly, it's the passives. These effects are super strong and can make more of a difference than the stats. So strong that it can help build your playstyle around these. For some examples like Fatal Crest takes away your ender, which means you can unleash non-stop attacks. Or Rumbling Rose allows you to do 2 enders back to back. or Oathkeeper to slow down dry form depletion while active. So if you like forms a lot, then this is for you. And some to increase your base area or grounded combo. Want to speed up MP recharge when emptied. And the one I use for the majority of my playthrough is Ice of Pumpkin. It increases the damage done on the ender based on how many attacks you did leading up to it. So yeah, from the equipment, abilities, magic, drive, summons are all customizable, have distinct uses, lead into different combo routes, or just help establish your own playstyle in a few ways. Because I think there's still more to uncover. The only other action RPG that matches this level of player choice and kind of surpasses it in some ways is Stranger Paradise. When it comes to enemies, the classic shadows are here. They're pretty simple. Don't do too much other than scurry around and go underground, making it hard to hit them, but they usually show up in crowds, which is where they get kind of scary. Now, it's not just Heartless in this game. We fight a new set of enemies called Nobodies. The earliest one we fight are Dusks. You can press triangle to do the unique reaction command to confuse them, leaving them open. Or if you see it coil up, they'll lunge towards you, so be ready to guard. Big ground guys called Large Bodies. Your attacks just bounce off their bellies, so don't attack them head on. So you need a circle around them. But they'll make sure it's not too easy for you. Sometimes they'll smack their stomach before rushing you down. You can guard to stop this. If they throw a tantrum, they'll zoom towards you. Stand your ground because once they're close, you can RC to punish this. Or hitting them with a finisher to bounce them up, which leads into another unique reaction command. They also jump to create the shockwave. You can't guard these, which is something that I'll carry over to other enemies' attacks, so be careful. But you can jump over or reflect the shockwaves. Speaking of those shockwaves, there's hammers. They'll do what they do and smash the floor, leaving a shockwave for you to jump over or reflect it. Now, when there are a crowd of these, it makes it very risky to combo near other ones because, well, they're ready to attack you. So it's a good idea to use launchers to single one out to avoid any shockwaves all at once. Then we have Assault Riders. They have some range on them because of their weapon. So keeping your distance with magic is a safe strat, especially on critical. But if you get close, they'll lean back before lunging forward. Guard open them up and yeah, they can even be launched to make sure they don't try and poke you anytime soon. Of course, can even use Valor Form to launch them and go crazy that way too. Morning Stars. When you see them tuck their arms in, they're going to attack soon after. So be ready with any of your defensive options. Now if they jump, they'll dive you. Be ready because you can RC this and really punish them for that. Or the standard guard and reflect. Pirates. They're super weak to all magic. Fire will have them run around, Blizzard freezes them in place, Thunder slows them down, making them drag their feet. They can even be launched with ease too, which is great because they can't take damage unless they're in the light. Since basic attacks will push them forward, the launcher can help keep them in a single spot for a bit longer. And if you see him ready up the rifle, watch for that RC to reflect it, or they'll rush you down before trying to stab you. You can use reflect or guard to turn the tables. Assassins. They kind of swim underground, but they still have nice tells. When you see them raise two arms, be ready to guard this. This will stun them and pull them out for you to punish. Berserkers. These guys hit hard. Well, everything does, but these especially. Just like every other enemy, they have great tells. So they have two close-up attacks. When you see them lean to their side, quickly guard to stun them. Or they'll shrink to enlarge their sword. Instantly get away because they'll follow you with multiple stabs. Guarding is risky since it can only stop so many attacks, right? So after a few of those, they'll do a quick swipe before finishing with the final stab that will land on you. So wait a bit, then reflect or guard to stop this. Now if you're too far, they'll leap to get near. Use lightning to catch them, which opens them up for some aerial combos. Now if you land a finisher on them, that will force them to drop their sword. You can actually pick this up for yourself. It'll bring enemies in before you unleash a devastating combo. Dragoons. Okay, when you see them ball up, watch for the teleport because they'll do the classic jump attack, diving right on top of you. Now neutral, they'll teleport behind you sometimes. They'll delay their attack, giving you enough time to react, either reflect or face them to guard. They also spin around at the bottom of their weapon, then grab it with their mouth. A great follow-up tell if you missed the startup because they enlarge their head to really let you know they're grabbing their weapon. Then they'll do this little swimming kind of animation before letting out the spin attack, which can be guarded. They're one of my favorite enemies since they have a lot of options no matter where you are. And of course for being this Final Fantasy callback too. But yeah, be ready for these guys. Samurai, another top pick of mine. Okay, their gimmick is pretty cool. So when you see them pull back or see their sheath hover in the air, immediately guard. This will leave them open for an attack but also sets up their unique RC called Dual Stance. Once you start, you're locked into this reaction based minigame, kind of similar to Kirby's. It's all about who can react first. So pay attention to your menu. It's empty now, but what you're waiting for is the end to randomly appear in any slot. Quickly select it or you'll lose the duel. But if you're fast enough, you'll land the decisive blow, dealing massive damage to them and to any nearby enemies. Then snipers. They'll shoot a red laser. At first, it'll hover there before tracking towards you. Now, you can guard it, send it back, use reflect, which of course does instant damage, or use it against them with the reaction command having you return to center. Now, if you ask me, the discussion about reaction commands being this no strategy, press triangle to win button is far from the truth. If you pay close enough attention, they're either active for a short window during enemy startups, or you need to guard a specific attack to get that RC to even pop up, so you gotta know patterns, right? Or you have to not only find their opening to punish them, but land a finisher too, which opens up for an RC that way. To use these RCs, you need to know animations, patterns, and their timings. And you know what? This is similar in concept to what Stranger of Paradise would use years later. You can react to the specific attacks and actually use it against them in fun ways. And come on, it gave us the 1000 Heartless battle too. It's probably where the negative stigma came from, if I'd have to guess, but it just goes to show how versatile this mechanic can be. Now, there's tons and tons of bosses, so I won't go over too many. Pete shows up a few times, and for the most part, he has similar attacks each time. He'll roll a bomb towards you like a bowling ball. Can guard these to return to center for some easy damage. Also, don't get too attack happy because he'll swat you off and create this shockwave soon after to get you off him. And during Thomas River World Fight, he'll keep switching the arena with their own gimmick to keep it fresh. Speaking of gimmick rooms, Oogie's is in line with what we just saw in Oogie's Revenge. Having to watch out for spiked walls, keeping up with the conveyor belt, and yeah, toss back his presence at him to knock him down. Alright, bosses have reaction commands sprinkled in there too. Solid reward for either opening them up or to avoid their unique attack, which are usually fast, so it's not a free Q to E. You actually need to pay attention a bit here. And of course, they're used for some easy over-the-top spectacle with not much hassle, but they're used in that way very little. Most times it needs some sort of setup to even reach that point. Another tidbit on bosses, you'll notice at times they are 1 pixel away from being defeated, probably confused why they're still standing even though you're landing a bunch of hits. But thing is, you can't beat them with any move. It has to be a finisher. So longer combos can deal more damage to an extent, but can be tricky to end the fight. But with magic attacks being considered finishers, can end your current combo by casting spell, and there you go. And when defeating bosses, you'll unlock some awesome stuff with these bonuses. Either new ability, new magic, extra gear slots, more drive gauges, or increase your max health and MP bar. Not too bad. Now before we look at Roxas and Sephiroth's boss fight, we gotta go over revenge values. So as you fight a boss, right, you notice that they will just break out of combos to attack you. What if I told you it's not by chance? Okay, as you continue to attack a boss, every attack has a value to it. Now by landing these attacks, you gradually reach the revenge value. Once that specific threshold is met, they'll retaliate with a unique attack. Or if you don't reach that number and let them be for a second, this will also reset it, letting you attack again with some restraint. This revenge value isn't shown to the player at all in any way, so it can come off as random at first, while something like Sekiro, for example, makes it very clear, right? When they parry you, it's followed up by a very distinct sound cue and unique counter spark that can be learned and dealt with accordingly. While 2FM is based off this hidden value. This mechanic to me is very cool and rewarding when you figure out their tipping point. You get to fill out what combo is best to get the largest punish while being free to avoid their upcoming attack. Again, at times it might feel random since there's no clear indicator, visually or with audio, but still it's good to know that it exists because it'll prevent you from mashing away. And playing on critical, yeah, it's something definitely want to look out for. Now, the Roxas boss fight, our rival, more or less. Now, cool thing is this encounter wasn't here in the vanilla version, so this was the very first time I've ever seen him and fought him. In the past, it was just a cutscene. This is some new content you can't miss when replaying 2FM. Okay, right from the start, use Reflect because he'll rush you immediately. He does this every time, and it's to show you that whenever he crosses his arms like that, he'll rush you. Now, after you Reflect, opens him up, land your grounded combo. I don't remember my setup specifically, I wish I took note, but I just remember using the Lion Keyblade because of the extra hit. Also had a guard break and explosion equipped as well. Either way, if set up right, this will bait out his follow-up attack, which lets you Reflect again for even more damage. Nice little loop once you know about revenge value and how to set up your combos, because this is when it started to make sense for me too. Okay, around the halfway mark, he'll fly to the center. It'll damage you if nearby, so you want to hug the walls and start running, because he'll shoot some tracking orbs at you. Now you can't roll away, glide, if you have those abilities, but just doing the normal jog is fast enough. Just don't make harsh turns while adjusting and you won't get clipped. After this, well, tell you the truth, I'm not too sure. Kinda got lucky to survive this part. But hey, once you defeat him, you'll unlock a new Keyblade out of the 2FM that'll make it easier to unlock final form. On to Sephiroth, the classic post-game boss returns. At the start, he'll begin with this reaction command every time. Once you got it, he'll be left open for a punish. Again, just like Roxas, these starter attacks are important to let you know what unique attacks they have, and how to deal with them when they show up again. After a combo, be ready to guard, then counter to start your next combo. Keep doing this over and over for a good while, and then that's the fight. Now, the way I'm describing and showing it might seem very easy. Just guard, counter burst, and attack again, and loop. Well, sorry to break it to you, but it's not. Make one mistake and you'll die. So it requires you to react to these startups every single time without fail, over multiple tries too, right? So be ready for that. Or he'll spawn orbs around you. I just mash reflect here because he'll either dash at you, do regular combo, or orbs will close in. Now there's going to be a time where he'll teleport and launch you. Now don't immediately recover. Instead, wait for him to appear and instantly press square instead to do that retaliation attack to catch him. Also, if you're not equipped with those leveled up forms to get those movement options, this boss is borderline unbeatable from my experience. The roll makes it so much more doable to avoid flame pillars, and Sephiroth will do an attack called Heartless Angel, where he'll fly to the outermost parts of the arena high in the sky. The high jump combined with the double jump is basically required to stop him, because you have to get there fast enough and hit him a few times to break him out of it. But if not, well, be ready to lose both your MP and your health, going down to 1. Now he'll go to a second phase, but it's more of the same. His base combo will reach further, but yeah, that's the fight. It's both straightforward, yet very layered because of those potential attacks to look out for. Plus, it's always nail biting because you'll be put in a rough spot with a single mistake. Not the best at explaining, obviously, so here's my setup. Maybe this helps you if you want to follow my fight. We're still not done, because FM added data org fights. Get to rematch those members from the story mode and other ones only seen in rechained memories. But now they have maxed out health, deal massive damage, are way more aggressive and have new attacks, and some are the hardest bosses in the game. But in order to get there, first you need to beat the game. Go to Radiant Guardian, then do the busted wall, and here we go. A whole new dungeon added with FM filled with late game enemies for you to take down. There's a few rooms built specifically for you to use all your growth abilities, the double jump, glide, and so on. Once we made it through the gauntlet, we finally have access to our very own boss rush. Now they can be really good or really bad, depending on who you ask, because they need very distinct strategies and have unique gimmicks between them all. Dealing with the book world, or having to fight Anti-Sora, or fighting on lava, which constantly drains your health, leaving you with 1 HP the entire time. They always ask you to approach the game in a certain way, which has some ups and downs. I won't go one by one with these since there's so much more qualified people already done that. But what I can say is this. You know a game is very well thought out when the enemies we fought throughout the game was getting us ready for one of their key attacks. Like Luxord's fight, for example, if you're close enough to catch a startup, you can get the reaction command similar to the mage enemy. Or a Sayek's fight where you can use his weapon against them, kind of like the Berserkers. Or you can jump on Zigbar's shots used against them like the snipers. Or Zaldian, you can guard his attacks to stun, leaving him open to steal jump attacks, just like the Dragoons. Even Roxas, the Samurai RC, shows up here too, creates a pretty hype moment, letting you steal his Keyblade if done right. Things like this deserve a lot of credit. It goes to show how much thought was put in to get you prepared for these major fights. And of course, lingering will. If you played Birth by Sleep, you know who this is, but if not, just know this is one of the most demanding bosses in the entire franchise. You need to be prepped. You need to hotkey the right items, equip the best accessories, scavenger hunt to synthesize ultimate weapon, be level 99, have all forms maxed out for best mobility, and yeah, this boss is insane. I gave it an honest try for a few hours, but I just couldn't. But I was fighting the hardest boss on the hardest difficulty while underleveled and under-equipped. Need to use well-timed guards, rolls, double jumps, and so much more to get by. Knowing your combo routes in a more in-depth way to really deal the most damage before he retaliates. But hey, maybe one day I'll take down this menace. One day. And that's Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I think it's safe to say it holds up 20 some odd years later. Coming back, it hit me pretty hard that it's one of those rare examples where that balancing act of easy to learn, hard to master was done extremely well. A lot of games aim for this, but seems like something has to give somewhere. But not here. As a kid, I was able to beat the game, doing whatever, and still had tons of fun. Now, if I want to push the envelope further, while the game's built-in mechanics allow you to do so. The base tools are just that, layered and abundant. So not only are things flashy and over the top, but everything has their distinct uses. And learning to use a mix of physical abilities to deal with certain groupings and magic attacks to deal with certain enemy types and groupings as well. Using a wide set of keyblades for their passives and abilities to modify many parts of your combo game. Could arrange your spells on a hotkey for some fast-paced ARPG gameplay. Or hell, if you want to play it on level 1 no XP while on critical, you can do that too. This game allows you to play it however you want, and that'd be the correct answer. Because there's so many ways to customize your experience to form your own playstyle. You can go all in with only physical attacks and mastering the guard, or use magic and drive forms to hard counter any foe. Or do you want to play it casually and only press attack and rely on reaction commands? Then go for it. You want to take it up a notch on critical to push the game's combat mechanics to the limits? Then that's possible as well. And yeah, the fact they have enemies and bosses to make these tools worth using in a more in-depth way is all the better. Speaking of critical, it's easy to die, yeah, but it does harder difficulties right. Because it doesn't take the easy way out and just blow enemy health. You're given more tools at the start, and it actually lets you take down enemies faster than before with that damage buff, as long as you know what you're doing. So it's way more rewarding to play with intent and not just mash because the punishment is a lot more harsh. Now I won't lie to you, the beginning might be a little rough. It actually might be the most difficult part of the game because you don't have magic, very low stats, no partners, no drives, no abilities for combos or for defense. And yeah, you basically have nothing, so it's a hurdle at first. But I think that's an important learning experience to really make you stop, have patience, don't mash, and look out for patterns. So it gets you rewired on how to approach Kingdom Hearts this time around. And because of that, Critical is perfect for returning players who want more and just experience KH2 in a refreshing way. And of course, you can be somewhere in the middle. Trying out a little bit of everything on any other mode is perfectly fine too. Now, not only is the gameplay top notch, but every aspect goes full force. The art direction, characters, music, story, and so much more. It all adds up to give this well-paced, upwards in quality experience. Kind of special for that, and makes me glad I was able to grow up with it, and replaying it now just cemented that even further. Now, there's more here than just great gameplay. The themes here are worth mentioning, because even now, I got new meaning from replaying this game many years later. First things first, to me it's extremely naive to say this game is just for children for having silly this and wacky that moment, because it's just not true. Sure, the low barrier of entry, gameplay, and of course the power friendship story at a base level, but it's not as one note as some would make it out to be. They do a lot with these concepts that would push ARPGs to their limits. Even to this day, I'd say there's not many contenders for that title. And story-wise, really hits home more as an adult that, yeah, we still have that childlike nature in us all, who doesn't reminisce and want those old days back. Just hanging out with your best friends, just taking one day at a time, dealing with our little problems. That, while looking at them now, were pretty insignificant, but meant the world to us at the time. How simple those days were are gone now. And so are those amazing people. But what Kingdom Hearts tries to tell you is that it's okay. You might have moved on, either from your group, or school, or town, so on. People will grow apart from one another, including you. You'll form your own story, start a new chapter in your life, which means, yeah, people will sadly split ways. The thing is, that will never change or take away those memories and connections you've made, because it's those moments, those friends, those places that made us who we are. So in a way, they're never truly gone from our lives. We carry them wherever we go. And that right there is what this whole series is about. To me anyways. So yeah, in closing, Kingdom Hearts 2, it's sincere, it's nostalgic, it's for everyone, it's ahead of its time, it's a masterpiece. Has a lot more to it in a lot of ways that you wouldn't expect, so please do me a favor, give this game and this series an honest try because there's nothing else quite like it. And with that, we just covered one of the titans of our genre. I really wanted to do right by this game for a lot of reasons, so hopefully I accomplished that. And I think it's kind of fitting to have 2FM be our huge send-off before the year's out. Which reminds me that we've been doing this for basically 2 years now. Crazy how time flies, but we made a huge dent in the action game catalog. Probably the leading channel to do at our level with this kind of more in-depth analysis across multiple generations. Just looking at our ever-evolving tier list shows that progress too. It has over 200 games, and well, it's probably best to show what we haven't made a video on yet instead. Yeah, not much left. Just got the games I've never played before at the bottom, so there's still a good chunk left and some new ones on the way to fill it out even more. But if you notice, we have some juggernauts left. While I avoided them at the start since I wasn't that confident in making videos, so I didn't want to make a fool of myself so soon. Well, not as much as I have already, but yeah. Wanted to save those big hits for when I was a bit more set for the task. Plus, they were discussed for years, so what could I add that hasn't already been said? Hey, I covered a lot of games no one's talked about, so I brought something a little different to the table in the meantime. So, we've been really hard at work. Hopefully that shows. Which segues to my next point. I've been putting out a video, sometimes two, every week for these past 2 years straight. And well, I'm gonna slow down a bit going forward. I'm glad I was able to keep the streak going this long, but it is a lot of work to cover mechanically heavy games since, yeah, they usually have a lot going on. But that's why I like them so much. And to see these games get shortchanged for years by getting surface level explanations, kinda dismissing any and all well thought out design they have kinda sucks. So, decided to do the opposite with the series. But now it's kinda catching up to me. I can only run on pure passion for so long before needing some time for myself to recharge my batteries a bit. And with me playing a lot longer games for the channel as of late, like Sekiro was probably 40-50 hours, especially going for the platinum. Kingdom Hearts 2, 40 hours, and there's still stuff I left undone. 2 Spider-Man games, each 15 to 20 hours. 2 prototype games for a single video, which, yeah, each game is a cool 20 hours as well. Don't even get me started on Dawn of Dreams, right? So yeah, kind of put a lot on my plate too soon, which isn't anyone's fault. Just been wanting to take on these more larger games nowadays. Not specifically open world stuff, but I mean games with more to them. Which means the more highly acclaimed titles in our genre. But with only a week to cover a game, from playing it fully, doing a little research, putting my thoughts together, getting clips, recording a voiceover, editing, getting the thumbnail together, and so on. Well, I don't think I could do them any sort of justice with that little time. Especially since it's just me, right? And of course, that feeling of maybe play this game, make a video, drop it, and quickly move on is becoming the norm a little too much. So because of all that, I'm gonna take some extra time between each upload so I can enjoy my time with them and be a bit more thorough with these upcoming games. I don't have a set schedule in mind, just gonna take it slow in comparison. I'm still super hyped about what we're doing here and extremely happy with the work. Don't worry about that. Nice to see the tier list slowly complete, but most importantly, I get to see our crew grow a bit. Now that's pretty damn cool. To tell you the truth, I want this channel to be referenced by all action game fans for years, to be this hub of some sort for our genre, giving everyone a nice starting off point to understand these games past the surface level descriptions they get by others. So I bring that action game veteran perspective with each video, and slowly my point of reference gets more and more fleshed out too. Because of that, I know what questions we want to ask because I was there too. Trying to get some very specific info on some games I was interested in, but no reviews would dig that deep. But that's where this channel steps in. Started out with this shotgun approach where I'd cover a wide range of action games to reach whoever YouTube would send my stuff to, and yeah, only got more varied since. I fully understand that I might have gone too far off the other extreme. I'm sure I alienated a few action game enjoyers with how in-depth I go. But hey, I didn't get what I want from those other overly casual takes, so my videos just had to get jam-packed with info to fill in the blanks. And I think I've done my part to help by doing that. Someone has to, right? And if you think about it, we're kind of the best action game channel you've never heard of. Haven't made a splash in those online action game circles to become a staple just yet, but I think that makes sense for our image we got going. And really, these videos are best for those who actually want to know some really nitty-gritty stuff, which I know isn't for everyone, but eventually the channel will reach those who need it most, which is more than enough for me. Now the silver lining to all this is, well, with the extra time, I can take on more intense action games out there. You know the ones. I put in the footwork to cover the lesser known games. I brought something interesting to the table, as well as some who never got their credit after all these years. But now, it's all led up to this, leaving us with the tippy top of our genre has to offer. Going to get pretty wild here, and hopefully I can do these games justice now that I've been doing this for a while. Now yeah, that's something I have to look forward to. Now, don't worry, I'm not forgetting my roots. I'll still cover the under the radar releases and the obscure unsung heroes from past generations, so we'll keep our spot of being the secret boss of action game coverage. Speaking of which, to get an idea of what's to come at some point, For now, I want to check out Robot Grandizer, Astral Chain. Kind of want to replay Kingdom Hearts 1 pretty soon. It's most likely going to be my next video. Maybe Vanquish, and of course Rise of the Ronin. You know Team Ninja is my number one, so. Then Stellar Blade when that comes out, and a few other stuff. But what are some games you really want to see covered? We wanted to ask everyone to drop a list of games for a while, and seems like now is the perfect time. Choose up to 3 games max, I'll say. Nah, screw it, put 5 if you have to. Might be hard to narrow it down that low, but with less uploads, I really want to make sure the games I cover are the most anticipated. It would be cool to see which are the commonly requested games so I can make them top priority. But I know popularity contests aren't the most fair way to go about things. I should know. I've been picked last for sports ball activities back in high school a few times. So if you have that one game you'll like to see, then let me know by putting a little asterisk next to it or pointing it out to me somehow so I can make note of it for later. And honestly, what do you guys want to see from me? Let me know what I can improve on my videos. With the extra time for each one now, I like to not only use it to take on more demanding games, but also improve how I package it all. From how they're presented, clips used, voiceovers, what aspects I bring up about the mechanics, and so on. If there's anything, let me know, so I can try my best to improve a little bit here and there however I can. Just want to make my less frequent uploads worth it in any way for you guys. And that's kind of it. Just wanted to say thank you for everyone for your continued support. We are a really small channel, so every bit of it of any kind is amazing to see from you guys. From the encouraging comments letting me know these sort of videos are exactly what you're looking for, or telling me you'll let others know about what we got going on here. And I know everyone's got to put up with my hot takes too, more than a few times I'm sure. Again, I can't say enough just how much I appreciate you all, and it's always hype to see familiar names or new people join in on the conversation. Sucks I won't be uploading as much, but just know I'll be here still getting something neat put together, since there's still a ton of games left. So expect a whole lot more for quite a while, just gotta wait a bit longer till those videos are ready. I think it'll be a nice surprise when they finally show up. Until then, as always, I got you covered.